we get out of Iraq, that doesn't end the war.
Certainly not.
Right.
Certainly, I believe that the democracy project is one that was flawed from the beginning, also because of things having to do with the life of Muhammad. That Muhammad was a political leader, and Islam is a political entity. It has always been such. As a matter of fact, the year one of the Islamic calendar is not what Westerners might expect. I speak around the country, and I always ask the crowds this, and I've never had one that guessed it right. I say, what do you think year one of the Islamic calendar is? And they say, when Muhammad was born. Nope. When Muhammad died. Nope. When Muhammad became a prophet and received his first revelation. Nope. And those are the three I usually get. The fact is that the year one of the Islamic calendar is the beginning of the Hijrah, when Muhammad left Mecca, settled in Medina, and became for the first time a political and military leader. And it's when Islam became a political entity, that's year one. And that indicates how deeply ingrained the political aspect of Islam is within the religion itself. It is not a religion that teaches, as Jesus did, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's and to God that which is God's. It is a religion that is essentially political. And the political aspect of Islam, the laws for the governing of a society, the laws for how a state relates to other states, are just as much considered to be part of the law of God himself as are the laws governing individual behavior. And this is rooted in Muhammad's own teachings.
Right. Many more people on the right, myself included, have come to this understanding, belatedly, but better late than never, I suppose. The question is, from a Washington standpoint, is there anybody on the left that is coming to this epiphany? Because it's only then that, that there will be this embrace of, the need to fight jihad on the jihad battleground.
None that I know of. I know that there's some individuals. Some people have written to me at Jihad Watch and said, I'm a liberal, I'm a leftist, I'm a Democrat, and I support what you're doing. And I appreciate that very much because I believe very strongly that this is not a liberal or conservative issue. This is an issue of national survival and civilizational survival. And it's not as if the left, for all the alliances that it has made with jihad elements, is going to be spared from this conversion or subjugation or violence imperative.
Right. But you would think that there would be some awareness there. I mean, some of their pet causes, particularly women's rights and the protection of homosexuals and civil liberties, all the Danish cartoons, but, they were ducking under the table, during all of those things.
You would think so.
Do you think, but here's the thing, do you think that learning about the life of Muhammad and how his life has affected how the jihadis treat women now, for example, is that going to do any good? I hate to be a pessimist about it, but...
Well, you can lead a horse to water.
Yes, yeah.
I'm trying to raise awareness of these things.
Yeah.
That's all I'm doing. Just bring these things out into the open.
Right.
And so everyone can see that they exist. But the capacity for denial in human nature is extraordinary. And you take, for example, Lynn Stewart, the lawyer for Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman, who was recently convicted of aiding in jihad terror activity by passing messages from him to his henchmen outside the prison. And Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman, of course, was the mastermind of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, and he's now in prison in the United States. And they asked Lynn Stewart why she did this. And she said, I don't think that the struggle against racism and sexism can be carried on solely by peaceful means.
Right.
And I think the really outlandish thing about that, the really unbelievable thing about that, is that she thinks Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman is struggling against racism and sexism. Imagine if he had the world he wanted. Where would Lynn Stewart be?
Yeah.
Completely covered up and in a house, secluded, and unable to do any kind of work at all, except clean house and cook meals.
Right. Talking about the race card and this Islamophobia card that you have to counter every day, there it seems that we have made progress. And if you look at the backlash against the 6 flying imams, it's remarkable to me that there haven't been any polls, but people are not buying their line. And the word is getting out there, thanks in large part, I think, to the internet, talk radio, alternative media. But when these people have inroads into the White House and the current administration, I mean, what good does that do? You know, that there's a public outcry, and yet, you know, they are more closely tied to law enforcement and to the Department of Homeland Security than they ever have been since September 11th.
Yes, they are. And it's just the same thing again. Every victory for them is a defeat, and every defeat is a victory. Right. And it's a strange situation, but it plays out very well with the flying imams. Reminds me of the flying nun.
The big nun.
But they are pushing for, CARE is pushing for congressional hearings against racial and religious profiling. What they want to do is to make it illegal for airport officials to stop a Muslim, no matter how suspiciously he's behaving, in an airport. Now, can you imagine that's giving carte blanche to Islamic terrorists in airports? But that's what they want, and that's what they might get. At the same time, though, you're right. There is increasing public awareness. Every one of these incidents, it's becoming more and more clear that what's going on here is not racism or discrimination. It's just self-protection. It's national security. And it's perfectly reasonable for these men to have been stopped. I was very pleased when I saw Tucker Carlson, who is not someone that I would have thought had a tremendous awareness of this issue, but he interviewed Arsalan Iftikhar of CARE, and he wouldn't let him get away with anything. And he said, this flying